Hi, guys. Welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. I'm here with my co host. On the left is Eli. And Eli, I know you were battling a little bit of sickness last week. Sounds like you're 100% back in the game.
I'm 100% back and ready to go. I called the St. Marie football game last night. It was excellent, and we're already off to a great start. And not just only for us, though. We have breaking news coming in. DirecTV just reached a deal moments ago with Disney, so now all their stations are coming back on. That includes ABC, ESPN, right before the college football and the Emmys tomorrow. So that's good for DirecTV providers. I'll have more on that on the random point segment, but that's good news to hear. It should be coming back in the next couple of hours.
Okay, you always keep us informed on that front. That's great. So it's September 14th, 2024, and very beautiful weather here in the Northeast,
Yes,
and that
indeed.
means high school football is going on, college football. We got so much to talk about. But of course, we always start with a monologue, and it's sponsored by, of course, Coriano Trucking of Summerhill, New York. And this Eli, this is going to be a little difficult for me because
Okay.
I've been a supporter of this guy for 6 years, and I watched the first game, and I watched what was going on, and I'm talking about number 8 for the Giants, Daniel Jones, and he's making $40 million. And you and I talked before the show about that's the market for quarterbacks, but he's not a $40 million a year quarterback. And I'm starting to come to the realization. I've been a supporter of his from day one. I wear his jersey every Sunday, but I just don't know. And listen, first and foremost, he's a great kid, and he's dedicated, he's athletic, and but it's just not doesn't seem to be working out. And there's a lot at stake here, right? So Brian Dable took the play calling duties over from Mike Kafka, and
Right.
3 years ago, Brian Dable really believed that Daniel Jones was the guy and that he could work with him and adapt to the system that he wanted to play. And I gotta say, it's frustrating week after week. We don't know what's going to happen this weekend, of course, in Washington. But um, like I said, when I miss the mark, I come on the show and I say I missed the mark, and I may have missed the mark on this one because it's not happening. And right now, in the short term, it could be Drew Lock, and God forbid it's Tommy Cutlets, but long term, he will not be on this team next year. They will, they'll opt out of this contract, but I really like the kid. I love his guts. He runs. He puts his heart out on the table, but it just doesn't seem to be working out. And like I said, I've been a staunch supporter of this kid from day one, and I kind of got to take it on the chin. So when we get it right, we that's great. When we get it wrong, we take our medicine. And this week, I'm taking my medicine.
All righty. Well, here's my thoughts on the
What's
whole
your
situation.
thought?
When you get booed out of a stadium, leaving the game, that goes to the shine. That goes to show that there is trouble in your franchise and you're doing something wrong. Because when you're booed out of a stadium, that doesn't mean anything good. And I know that they said Brian Dable got his new play call. He's now the play call for the offensive side. That's fine, but that proved nothing. It really didn't. We saw the same New York Giants as we saw last season. In terms of quarterback situation, we really saw failure. The fact that you're leading right now in interceptions, fumbles, and all that, the failure stuff and not touchdowns is kind of sad. And that kind of goes to show that the New York Giants need to make up a decision real quick. And now this game coming up tomorrow versus the Washington Commanders, it's a big game. Now, people are saying, well, the Giants stink, the Commanders both lost. How is this a big game? How is this important? Well, number one, this determines whether or not the Commanders are in the running for potentially in the division, the playoffs, and stuff, because they have a fantastic quarterback of Jaden Daniels, and they're rebuilding. They played a pretty good, decent game versus Tampa Bay despite losing. When you look at the Giants side, though, it's a matter of can Daniel Jones keep his quarterback hot seat spot? Or will he have to give it up to go to Drew Lock? Or does he have to give it up to go to Tommy DeVito? That is the ultimate big question. And this game is really going to determine the future for the New York Giants and how the play call is going to go. But if you ask me, if this game goes bad tomorrow for the New York Giants, you're going to see a loss for both the head coach by the end of the year and Daniel Jones.
And listen, by the way, like I said, you got to sometimes just say, let's look at the numbers. And his overall record isn't great. The last 8 games, he's had more pick sixes than touchdowns. And
right,
like I said, he's a wonderful, wonderful kid. And, hopefully he proves us wrong down the line wherever he ends up. And he has this miraculous season. But right now, it's just not working out in New York. And it's been a long time for Giant fans, and they're a little frustrated. But like I said, I'm I don't know if I'm gonna wear my Daniel Jones jersey tomorrow when I
yeah,
watch the
honestly, I
game.
wouldn't. I would just wear another jersey or Seattle's also okay, Jim. You know, I wouldn't go Jets though. That's the only message I have. I wouldn't go Jets because I don't know how much I can trust them either. But we'll get to that a little bit later on the football segment.
Well, we'll get to that because the Jets have a couple of, let's call it, easier games. So,
Well, we'll
they
find out
lost the
about that
first
in a
game
second. We'll
against
get to that.
they lost the first game against the tough, San Francisco
Well,
49er team
that's the
without
thing.
Christian McCaffrey,
That's the thing. We'll get to that. I'll get to my
and
thoughts
he's
about
and
that
he's
later.
gonna miss the second game. So listen, I would love everybody's thoughts. I know Giant fans are easy to chime in on this, but send us an email at Sports with Mono and Mono, or comment on the show about my position. And like I said, if I got to take my medicine on this show, I'm taking it. And right now, I'm taking it. So
All right.
anyway, we got a lot of stuff to talk about, of course. Let's do some. We always catch up on our recaps, and the U.S. Open was outstanding again.
Absolutely.
Always is. And the big story was Yannick Sinner, who actually we talked about a couple of weeks ago, right? He tested positive for certain drugs, so people are starting to question whether or not that had any influence.
Factor.
But he beat Taylor Fritz pretty much handily. And he wins the U.S. Open. And on the women's side, it was a great story, right? Jessica Pegula,
Right.
who's the daughter of the Buffalo Bills owner, multi-billionaire, and she came a long way. And maybe this kid's starting to make some headway into the wide open women's bracket. But Ariana's Arena Sabalenka really, showed that she was
Right.
right now. So that's her second Grand Slam win of the season, and it's never disappointment. We were all a little surprised that it wasn't Yannick and Alcaraz and Coco Gauff and all that. But this is why I say professional tennis is wide open. There's a new breed, and we're going to see who's going to take command and who's going to be that next dominant player on both the men's and the women's side.
Absolutely. And I think it was a great matches, and we cannot wait for the next US Open. But I think the one comment I do have is, can you not schedule the men's final on the same day as NFL football? I mean, I think they could do a little better than that. I mean, I know it's tradition, I get it, but you want more people to watch the game, you got maybe switch up the date if you ask me.
Well, unfortunately, that's the date that it's always been, and you're right. But you got to watch the Giants, lay an egg at 1 o'clock,
That's
and
right.
then we had 4 o'clock games. Right, it was the Cowboys that looked impressive, but yes, you got to be flipping back and forth at 4 o'clock to watch the U.S. Open. But from a
It's a good
scheduling
thing I have
perspective,
Red Zone from NFL Plus because that's the greatest thing you could ever ask for. Just watch there and watch Scott Hansen just tell you about every single touchdown from every game and a highlight of everything that happened. I mean, that's like the best way to watch every single football game. And
okay, well,
it's a really cheap alternative. I mean, not it still costs money, but it's the cheapest alternative to buying all these streaming platforms and Sunday Ticket, for example.
well, either way, you got to take out your checkbook if you want all that
That
kind
is
of stuff,
correct. That's the bottom line.
and we know that, right? So, let's jump into a couple of things, right? So,
MLB first. Well,
yeah, Major League Baseball, and right now, we're starting to see we're down to 16 or 15 games remaining in the season. The Yankees have been I'm not saying struggling, but
They
they've
have.
basically been playing 500 baseball since the All-Star game. And Aaron Judge breaks out of his longest home run drought last night, hits a grand slam. They win it
That was
against the
pretty
Boston
amazing.
Red Sox. Right. While the Orioles, and like I said, the Orioles are starting to, maybe come back down to earth. Maybe they weren't
Yeah,
the great team that we all thought. So the Yankees are up 3 games in that. And we talked about it before. It's very, very important that the Yankees win that division so they don't have to play the wild card series
right.
because you never know what
You never know how
happens.
it's going to be and take.
Right. And there's good races too. And I gotta say, this surprising run by the Mets, they almost have as many wins as the Yankees. And they
Yeah,
started the season very dismal, but they're getting great pitching. Lindor's having a great year. And I think the key for the Mets, what's really turned that around, is the play of Mark Vientos, who's
that's right.
come up and shown that, he shouldn't have been sitting in the minors that long because he's made quite an impression and he's a key part of why they're making a run. And, they're going to battle the Atlanta Braves right down to the wire, for that final wild card spot. But right now, with the pitching they have, of course, the bullpen is still a big, big question mark, right? Is
Right.
Diaz the
The starter.
showstopper that he once was, but doesn't look like that. But like I
They're
said,
just
it's been a
we're
long
keeping him just
season.
because the trumpets and that they have the best walkout. I mean, you could ever ask for.
Yeah, and when we talk about it, we've been talking about this for 4 months already, right?
Yep.
162 game season down to 16 games. Um, so every game is important, and
And I want to go
it's just
back to Aaron Judge real quick, if you don't mind.
please.
I'm going to say that ever since he aired on this Paw Patrol episode that aired in August that we mentioned before prior on this show, that took a curse on him. Now I'm not a big fan of this. I'm a disbeliever superstition. I mean the quarterback curse with the whole football stuff. And now it seems like he aired on Paw Patrol, and it just seemed like the downhill began. I mean, there was no home runs. I took to a grand slam last night, which by the way was beautiful. If you watch the game and you watch the home run on the highlights and everything, the grand slam, it was absolutely beautiful. And it was good to see him back at it. And that's what the Yankees need. Got back in the comfort zone and right back up on the roller coaster ride. Right now, they're at the little bit of a dew point. For the Mets right now, they're climbing. They're inching forward to that playoff spot, and they're high
Yeah.
right now on this roller coaster run. And I'm very impressed right now what the New York Mets are doing. And for the Yankees, it's good to see Aaron Judge get a grand slam again. And I think that Paw Patrol episode had a big curse on him for not having a home run.
Okay. Well, I don't know what Paw Patrol is.
Well, he was just to give everybody heads up, and we talked about this on the August show before. Paw Patrol is a Nickelodeon kids show. It's about dogs that are like superhero, I guess, people. I guess you could say they're
Okay.
like whatever. I don't know, like how like there one's an officer, a police officer, helper, I don't know, one firefighter. I don't watch it, but I just heard about it. You could ask your grandson and kids about it. Maybe they know about it. They'll give you the best insight for what Paw Patrol is, Jim. But but I've heard about the program and
Okay.
I know he debuted about it, and a lot of people making fun of the episode because of it. But so ask your grandkids about what
Yeah.
Paw Patrol is because they'll give you a better understanding than what I'm going to tell you right now.
So, you know, let's kind of sum it up right now. We got some good races going on in Major League Baseball for the playoffs and so forth. And the
Yeah.
end of the season, it's the start of the NFL season. So, you're going to be flipping around left and right. And
Yeah.
you see the seasons that, Otani have. He's most likely going to be the first 50-50 guy. And the
Yeah.
question keeps coming up. It sounds like, he's the runaway MVP, but there's also going to be questions about whether or not, he's a DH and he doesn't play the field and all those kind of things. So, but he clearly is the best player in the National League. And when we
100%.
look at the standings, like the Philadelphia Phillies, right? They were one of the best teams in the league, and they haven't been playing well, just like the Orioles. So that's going to open up, other opportunities for other teams in the American League. You see the Guardians are hanging in there, but the Astros are on the rise, and San Diego. That's that may be one of the best divisions that's going to
That's
come
out there.
down to the wire. You know.
Absolutely. And I think just because of how close it is, as you mentioned, it's going to come down to the wire. And even on the national side with the Mets and the Diamondbacks and everybody, it is, again, a down to the wire situation. Everybody's like
Yep.
separated by like 1 or 2 games on both sides. So it's really a down to the wire situation and who's going to come out first and who's going to come out on top. And for those watching, don't forget to keep on commenting or leave us your thoughts about anything we talk about. And you can follow us on all the social media platforms so you don't miss a thing.
Yep. Absolutely. So, all right, that's kind of a summary of Major League Baseball. Let's jump into the NFL.
College football we're going to, or then NFL? Or what are we doing?
Okay, let's start with college football.
Yeah, we'll go to college, high school, NFL. We'll do that.
Right. So, big upset last week. Notre Dame loses at
That was the big
home in
one.
Northern Illinois. Right.
Big one.
Shocker kind of thing.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I honestly didn't see it coming. And Michigan too. I was disappointed with them. I mean, wow. I mean, Jim Harbaugh leaves, and look at them. They also fall down the track too. I mean, I was really shocked mostly by Notre Dame though. Northern Illinois goes out to Notre Dame, and they lost by a field goal, 16-14. It came down to a field goal for the end of the game.
Yeah. You got to be impressed, though, the way Texas and Sarkisian's got these guys playing. They got good quarterback and play and Quinn Ewers, and they go into the big house and basically take over. And remember, the former Giants defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale, is now the defensive coordinator at Michigan. And, he's got to take some heat because I know Texas, they got some high flying wide receivers and a quarterback that can deliver the ball. But, that's the worst loss I've seen Michigan take at home in a long time.
I'm very disappointed for sure.
Right. And
looking at today's big games, game days in South Carolina, I have my 3 games I picked for like the watch out for. My 3 games to watch out for the day: LSU, South Carolina, 12 o'clock ABC; Texas A&M versus Florida, 3:30 ABC; and Georgia, Kentucky, 7:30 ABC. I know it's not just because it's ABC, but I just chose it because those are competitive games that really could come down to end of the wire games and really could factor in. It may not actually be a big blowout as we may see in other games, as we saw like Michigan last week and other conferences. So those are my 3 games to watch out for. I'm going to try to do that for like every college football game. My 3 game picks for the week to watch out for. Those are mine for the week. And we saw a bigger upset, of course, in Notre Dame and Michigan for sure last week.
Yeah, and there's some really good games when you look at it. Alabama, Wisconsin. I don't ever remember those 2 playing.
No.
But that has a lot to do with the realignment and
and the whole change of conferences. Absolutely.
Yeah. So big games in college football, and I did that. I realized that they were at South Carolina and LSU. Like I said, you saw Brian, head coach. LSU.
I'm blanking. Hold on.
Drawing a blank here.
Brian Kelly.
Brian Kelly, right. Just very, very, pounding the podium while he's doing the press conference. And, he left there because he thought he had, the makings of a future national championship, to leave Notre Dame for that. And it's just not working out right now. I mean, so that's a big game. And there's some other big games today. Like you said, Georgia should handle Kentucky no problem. They're still the best team in the country. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But Notre Dame looks to rebound. They're playing at Purdue, and that's always a tough game with Notre Dame and Purdue. So we're going to see how they can respond from that big loss. And, when you get losses like that, does that put Marcus Freeman on the hot seat? You never know.
Yeah, you never know. Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, and we're seeing other teams like Miami's got a cupcake game, and
that's the only thing I don't like college football. You get so many cupcake games. You gotta
I know. I do understand that, and
like you can't. That's why I can't sit there on a Saturday and watch a bunch of college football games as I could for the NFL, because the NFL is not blowout games, and there's reason to it. In college football, it's blowout games that you win by 50 or 40 or 30. It's just like a whole new ball game. It's very, very annoying to watch. It's sad to say, but yeah.
I got you.
But yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
but
enough
so
for
college
college.
football, like I said, all right, let's move on to the big high school
High school
football.
sport. Yeah,
Congratulations last night.
the St. Mary Gales. They
Second
took a
big
victory.
win for them.
Yes, they did. They won last night 48-13 over Woodridge last night. It was NJIC's game of the week. Woodridge entered yesterday 2-0. St. Mary's 1-1, but there was a lot of fumbles and interceptions from the Woodridge side. St. Mary's picked it up and took it to the end zone. Kazir White, BJ Cunningham, and Nazir Owens were the top three guys of the night to watch out for. And the offensive side and defensive side that really had a big night for them. So I'm very impressed with what those guys did. It was a really good game. Unfortunately, though, it looked like some of the video from last night's feed that we live streamed did not fully go through. So we do apologize about it.
Ah,
It may not be working so great. So you may not want to watch the highlights on our network. Just the bottom line on the sports, not sports, search sports or basketball network. We had a little bit of issues, but you could see some
okay.
highlights, but not a whole lot. But yeah, bottom line, Gills won. Next week they take on Weehawken above that fantastic stadium in above the Lincoln Tunnel, which I now learned today, believe it or not, yesterday, that they can't kick field goals on the one side. They were saying it was a weird thing. They said that in the Weehawken game, one of the coaches were saying that there's a possibility they can't kick field goals on the field goal that is on the right side facing the tunnel. And that's because I guess there's no netting or something. I don't know. That's what the rumor was. But I was something that I heard yesterday. And I was like, okay, well, that's a new one. I mean, and that's I guess it makes sense because if you miss a field goal, that goes over the post and you can hit a car, and that's a memory of a lifetime. And we saw big delays this week in the Lincoln Tunnel. But yeah, I mean, that's something learned. I knew. I mean, that you can't kick a field goal on the one side of the field because of Lincoln Tunnel. So I don't know how that's going
So
to
what?
work.
So what? If they score on that side, they got to kick the extra point on the other side.
I'm guessing unless they go for 2 points, but that's what the rumor was that you can't kick on one side, and that's because
No, but you got to give them an option to either go for two or one. So they must move it down to the
they
other
must
side.
move it down, but it's just very confusing. And there is a field goal post there. I just don't understand what the idea was, but we'll see
Right.
for sure next week. I'll give you an update on what exactly happens.
All
That was
right.
just a
So
rumor.
there's some really big games. In high school, my St. Joe's right rebounded
Yep,
after a tough loss against a really tough St. Francis Academy team from Maryland.
yep.
So they went rebounded, beat Seton Hall last week, and they got a tough game up in White Plains today against Archbishop Stepanak.
All right.
And I was planning on going to that game, but I got a better offer. My grandson's playing football this afternoon,
That's
so I'm
even
going
better.
to that.
That's it. That's even better. We do have a
Right.
comment coming in from Frankie. Morning, Jim and Eli. Happy college game day. Happy college game day, and thanks for watching.
All right, Frankie. Thank you. And I'm sure Frankie is delighted that I actually had to concede that Daniel Jones is no longer the answer for the
Ha.
Giants. Anyway, so high school football, like I said, it's great. Um,
Big games and
big
big
games,
upsets.
and I was talking to somebody yesterday about this. The way these powerhouse teams in New Jersey are playing teams from Ohio and all that, and IMG, and that's real competition. And like I said, these are the future NFL players. Division One. Every school has 8 to 10 Division One players going at, and so I wish them good luck. My Green Knights up in White Plains, New York, against Stepanak today.
Absolutely. All right. We will
Yeah.
be looking forward to it.
Right. So good stuff on high school football. And like I said, you couldn't get a more perfect day for a football game in New
Absolutely.
Jersey, right? Or White
Too bad it
Plains,
was all
wherever.
last night, but it's okay though.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the big boys.
NFL.
Right.
Let's get into it.
Right. So it was, basically week one. We watched the Giants. They got blown
We
out
talked
by the
about the
Vikings.
Giants.
Does
Yeah.
that mean that the Vikings and Sam Darnold are for real? Well,
No, we'll find
no.
out tomorrow versus San Francisco.
Right. And of course, the Jets opened up the season in San Francisco without Christian McCaffrey available. And
You
yet,
see, this is where I'm going to go and take this. If
Go
you're
ahead.
telling me you lost with Christian McCaffrey out with the San Francisco 49ers and you put up only 19 points, are you kidding me? 32 to 19 about it was a practically an all field goal game for San Francisco. Barely enough touchdowns. And yet somehow the New York Jets lose that game. That goes to show you the defense slacked off. Aaron Rodgers looked okay, but the offense wasn't exactly better. And I think a lot had to do with the coaching. Robert Saleh and the team didn't make the right choices. And entering tomorrow's game, we're not picking the Jets game on the for the picks this week. I have the Titans winning as an upset for tomorrow's game. And the reason why I do have them as an upset pick for the win is because the Jets did not play the well in expectation that we wanted them to play. Tennessee, yes, they lost last week. The final score for the Tennessee game was 24-17, but they look like they have a little bit more potential in actually winning a game and communicating right over the New York Jets. And that's kind of scary to say that we're thinking that the Jets are going to lose to the Tennessee Titans and that this is the future. Again, I had them going 6-11, and I had them again losing tomorrow versus Tennessee. And after the week 1 game, I was nothing but disappointed, but not as disappointed as I was watching the Cincinnati Bengals lose to the New England Patriots.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest upset of the week. But getting back to the Jets, I mean, I don't think they're going to lose to the Titans. I think the question mark for the Jets, and they keep parading this around like they got the best defense in the league. And
It didn't show.
I said this last year. They kept saying they had the best defense, and yeah, the offense was non-productive, but the defense also gave up a lot of points. So, I'm not sure it's the personnel, but you can watch because we talked about this before. They'll sign Hassan Reddick probably this week if the defense doesn't perform like it's supposed to, because he was supposed to be a key figure in that. So we'll see about that, right?
Yes, absolutely. But I
Um,
think we'll go out of the Cincinnati game real quick. I was absolutely shocked last week how New England came to Cincinnati and won. That blew me away. It really did. And that goes to show is, are we underestimating New England? Are they really the runners for the division? And here's my crazy hot take to say. I mean, it's horrible to say, but if you look at yesterday, the Thursday night game that we just had, Buffalo beat Miami 31-10 was the final.
yeah.
If Buffalo didn't play that great week 1, played decent against Miami, and Miami looked pretty bad, if New England wins tomorrow, they're the front runners of the division. Is that scary to say, Jim? I mean, really, I know if they lose to Seattle, it's obviously a big deal, but still, Seattle didn't look good either last week. I mean, their defense was very good, and it was impressive with that part. But the offensive side, they gave up 2 safeties in the first half, and they kind of woke up in the second. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I'm going to tell you this because when we did our NFL preview, I took the Miami Dolphins to win that division. But I
Right.
also said I think the Bills are underrated. I think Josh Allen is that type of elite quarterback that he could generate wins. But we're going to see, is Aaron Rodgers and the Jets going to give them a run? I told them, yeah, I think we said they'll look for the Jets to get 10 to 11 wins.
Right.
But this was a big blow. We saw what happened in the game with Tua Tagliavola.
Tua took it by
This is a big, big story. Probably the biggest story in the NFL.
They're saying
It
he
didn't
needs to
even.
retire.
I know, but it didn't even look like it was like it
That
wasn't a
bad.
head-to-head contact, and it keeps going to my point. Like, why are these concussions happening with the equipment that we have? And now we see there's going to be more and more players wearing those guardian caps, which is what my grandson plays with. You know, maybe somebody can come up with a guardian cap that they could put inside the helmet if that's what is required. But this is a big, big story. And you know what? It's completely up to Tua whether he's going to come back. But if you're susceptible to this, it's going to happen again. But there's a lot of money on the table. They just signed him a huge
A huge
contract.
contract.
And if he has to retire for
Safety
for
concerns.
these reasons, quote unquote, the guaranteed money isn't guaranteed. So
Yeah.
I fully expect him to come back, because there's a lot of money on the table. But you got to take the humanitarian side of it and say, is this right? Four concussions in the past 2 seasons is a problem.
Well, before I get to my thoughts, Eric says you've got a friend in Pennsylvania. Good morning to Eric. I thought you were going to say you got a friend in me, but that's Toy
Oh, I
Story. It's
think
a good
that
one.
was a James Taylor reference, actually.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, back to my thoughts on Miami and Tua Tagovailoa. I don't think he's going to retire. I think they paid him just too much money for him to retire now. I know there's safety concerns that, regarding, he had concussions and all that other stuff. But if you really think about it, yeah, he had concussions. That's fine. He's got it. There was issues before. That's understandable. But at the same time, I don't think it's enough to say I'm going to quit what I'm going to do and what I love. I don't see it happening at all. I don't think he's going to give up what he loves for this reason. I mean, he paid him too much money. He's going to finish out the season, is my opinion. And the other issue, too, is what is Miami's options? Who's the backup? How is he going to deliver the day? And what about if they decide to trade out for another quarterback when the trade deadline comes around? Who is it going to be? Daniel Jones? I mean, that would be your only option if the Giants were to trade him. And I can tell you right now, I wouldn't want to pick him up. I'd rather deal with this backup quarterback, which we don't know too much about, if you ask me. Eric says, what good is the money if you can't remember anything?
That's an accountant speaking, and he's absolutely right.
That's true too.
If you're off the field, going to be struggling. I don't know. I think he's coming back, but we're going to see. But
I think
this
so
is
too.
the fourth time. It's the fourth time it's happened, and you could see him clutching his hands, which meant there was more of a neurological problem than just a hit in the head, which wasn't even a hit in the head.
It was more than that.
Right. So that wasn't
to Jordan Love. Jordan Love last week, we were saying, how bad is this injury? It was said to be only an MCL injury, which is a lot better than we thought. And it would only require 3 to 6 weeks of missing games, which is better than we thought. And that's really good to see on the Jordan Love side. But back to another quarterback situation. Dak Prescott becomes the highest paid quarterback ever with the 4-year, $240 million extension. And we talked about this. The quarterbacks are going to just keep on getting paid the money. And we, the fans, have to keep on paying for these streaming services and everything else so they can pay these quarterbacks and these players. Do I think Dak Prescott deserves his contract? Absolutely not. Here's my reasons why. Yes, he did bring them to the playoffs and had a successful regular season, but what has he done in the playoffs in the past years besides bringing them and failing every year? That's not an accomplishment. That's what we call, you know what? You tried, good luck next year, and we made everybody happy in the regular season. Postseason will make them everybody upset. I am absolutely disappointed with what Dallas just did. I mean, I think it was time to move along with Dak Prescott, but instead they decided to keep him, and I still have a feeling they're going to bust again in the playoffs.
Okay, well, listen, first and foremost, as we mentioned last week, he did the right thing. He was in the final year of his contract, and he was going to play out that contract. And that's, unfortunately, Eli, that's the market value for quarterbacks. If Daniel Jones was making 40 million, and now when you think about it, probably Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are underpaid compared to the market, and this keeps going up and up and up. And that's why I'm talking about the Bengals and Jamar Chase. He's got 2 years on his contract. He shouldn't be going back to the well for a new contract, because every week there's going to be somebody else that's going to make more money.
Absolutely.
And an interesting point, I wanted to bring this up because I talked about this with somebody. I had an opportunity, or we did, to watch the Kansas City Royals and watch this young man, Bobby Witt Jr., who's one of the best players, up and coming players in the game.
Absolutely.
And they locked him into a contract for, I think it was 12 years. So 11 years. And right now, when you think about it, what's going to happen when Juan Soto gets 50 million a year and so forth, Bobby Witt is only going to be making $26 million a year for 11 years. So, but you're not going to hear that there's a holdout that Bobby Witt's not going to show up to training camp.
That's right.
because it doesn't work that way. It only works that way
In different situations, right?
in the NFL.
Absolutely.
Um, so I thought it was interesting that we keep seeing this happen in the NFL, but no other sports. So, maybe they could renegotiate and give him a raise, but he will be at work. They have options, and I think he has a team option in year 7, 8, and 9. But this is the same story when you had, Fernando Tatis signs this
Yes.
contract as young player, right? It's a good idea to lock these kids in, but at some point, you know, Bobby Witt Jr. could be future MVP in the American League if Judge ever, decides to take a year off. He'll finish
Right.
second. But the money, when you think about it, Carlos Rodon makes more money than Bobby Witt Jr. And
It's
he,
amazing.
it's
Truly is.
crazy, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh,
So Eli,
there was other
let's
news. I
talk.
want to get to one more thing before we get to the picks and everything else. Tyreek Hill got arrested prior to last Sunday's game, which, here's my thoughts on it. He refused the officer. He rolled up that window and it was tinted windows. He could have done something absolutely illegal. He absolutely deserved to get arrested. 100% on that one. The way they did it, a little bit dramatic, 100%. But I don't agree with the comments on everybody else saying that it was not necessary. It's absolutely necessary. It's necessary. He's a regular civilian and he refused an officer. That was the number one bottom line situation. We have to look at it from
Yeah,
that perspective. And
yeah,
also,
that's a
I think
that's
Jeff Darlington from ESPN is now the new arrest officer for ESPN because every situation when it comes to an arrest, Jeff Darlington is there. Tyreek Hill, he was there. He was there with Scotty Scheffler. I mean, Jeff Darlington, I think, is the king of arrests with ESPN right now. Chief
yeah.
officer.
I saw Jeff Darlington do a piece on golf the other day. So maybe he's migrating into golf too.
Yeah, I mean, he's like the chief officer for I guess the NFL, I guess, and ESPN. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Y'all get some new news after our picks.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the picks. And last week, Jim was 2-2. Eli was 3-1, and Eli
That's right.
capitalized at the 3-1 with the bonus pick. He took his Seahawks over Denver, which
Absolutely. It
not a
didn't help
great
you,
start. Not a great start for Bo Nix, but
nor you, but it's okay.
right. So 2-2 is kind of respectable.
You can respect it. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, when I missed the mark when I picked the Giants, but Eli and I had the same picks last week except for the bonus round, and that's what puts him in the lead for week 1 of the season.
All right. Well, I will make sure I take note of it. We'll make a standings chart for next week.
All right. Well, we got our 3 games this week, and here they are for me. The Raiders are at Baltimore, and I'm not impressed with the Raiders. I watched them play last week against San Diego. I don't think San Diego's a great team, but they kind of took it to the Raiders. And, Baltimore with Lamar Jackson, whether you like him or dislike him, he's a dominant force, and that's a good football team. And I don't see them losing at home to the Raiders. So I'm taking Baltimore. Second
Okay.
game, Chicago at Houston. And let's talk a little bit about Caleb Williams. Didn't have his greatest game in his debut, but he also broke the streak of number 1 pick quarterbacks not winning the last 14 games. So, but that was specially designed. That was specifically on the defense and special teams that scored the points, so that bailed him out. He gets the win. He's going to be a great player, but right now he's got some learning. And with C.J. Stroud in Houston, I don't think they can go in there and beat them. So I'm taking Houston. And the other game, and this is kind of a game we have to look at, right? With Pittsburgh, right? They came into the season with it looked like it was going to be Russell Wilson, and then all of a sudden he gets hurt, so Justin Fields starts, and so that quarterback situation is going to be back and forth all year. I think that's going to cause a little instability with them. But Mike Tomlin's a great coach; he'll figure it out. But they're playing Denver this week, and I look for Denver to bounce back because I still think Sean Payton making the decision to pick Bo Nix as the quarterback is going to reap rewards. And we know rookies, they got to pay their price early in the season in their first year. And we talked about the Titans and Will Levis, and he looked terrible in that game. Is he the quarterback for that team? But
No.
I really do think that Denver at home is going to take care of Pittsburgh, because
So
I'm
you have
very
Denver in the upset.
unsettled, and I'm not. I do.
Wow.
And I guess Eli wanted to make a bonus pick,
pick.
and of course,
Saints Cowboys was the bonus pick.
right. Of course, Eli takes his Seahawks, and so who you taking? I'm taking Dallas in the bonus.
Well, of course, it'd be Dallas in the bonus pick. It's my lock of the week, 32-24. The Saints got lucky because it was the Panthers last week, but it's absolutely going to be the Cowboys this week. And for the other games, Raiders, Ravens, 1 o'clock CBS. Give me the Ravens 23-14. The Raiders disappointed me last week versus the Chargers, and I think the Ravens are just a better team, and they're going to go in and win a game for sure. So they're going to take the victory there. Next game, Steelers, Broncos, 4:25 p.m. CBS. I am not going with the upset on like Jim, so I am taking the Pittsburgh Steelers 23-16. Justin Fields is the quarterback, and not Jim left. Oh, okay. Well, my apologies. I don't know why Jim left, but so Steelers are going to take the victory there, and the Steelers are going to win 23-16. And finally, for Bears Texans Sunday Night Football, 8:20 p.m. on NBC, we're going to take Texans in the victory 28-21. We're going to get Jim back in here. Jim, did you kick yourself out?
Here I am.
Did you kick yourself out?
We had some technical difficulties there. That happens, but I got through my picks.
Did you kick yourself out?
Eli, did I miss your pick? So who do you like?
Yes.
Raiders,
so I went
Baltimore?
Steelers, Texans 28-21, Steelers 23-16. So Texans, Steelers, Ravens, Cowboys. So we disagree on one game so far.
And you took Houston, right?
I took Houston. Yep. And those are my picks for the week. And now I'm going to go to some NFL news real quick before we move on to our random point segment. Kendrick Lamar will be performing at this year's Super Bowl halftime performance. Not a huge fan of that one, but whatever. Christian McCaffrey is out for week 2 for the 49ers, likely going to injury reserve for the Achilles injury. Jordan Love is now questionable for Sunday's game, but if you are a fantasy owner, I would not play him at all, because I don't think he will be starting, because he was very limited in practice. Vikings announced that wide receiver Jordan Addison will be out this Sunday. Hollywood Brown of the Chiefs wide receiver is on injured reserve. And also Panthers defensive tackle Derek Brown is out for the season due to an injury. He will require surgery. Colts cornerback Juju Brents out for the season with a knee injury. Steelers will start Fields against the Broncos this week. And Brown signed Kadarius Toney to a wide receiver deal with the Browns, which is can you believe that one?
Yeah, that sounds very typical of the Cleveland Browns to keep signing
not
guys
a quarterback, even though he failed last week, Deshaun Watson. Let's just hold on to a wide receiver. Makes sense, right, Jim? And the final one is Steelers punter Cameron Johnson suffered a season-ending injury last night. And that is a big loss, as he is a punter for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's the NFL news, and now it's time for some random points, sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut.
Yes, and I do have, you stole a little bit of my thunder originally, because I wanted to bring up not only the Tyreek Hill situation. We don't know the circumstances, so we don't pass judgment. But it does always seem that he's in some sort of a quandary. It seems to follow him around, so you got to be careful. And of course, the aforementioned Deshaun Watson, another lawsuit against him. So, I mean, this is just mounting up. He's not playing at the level that people saw him play. For the Texans before, and it's just kind of a mess. Really is a mess.
Absolutely.
But that contract, as we talked about before, is guaranteed. So this guy's going to get paid no matter what.
No matter what.
Crazy. I got a couple other random points. And Eli, you brought something up before that was very interesting. Usually week 1 of the NFL season, and it coincides with the men's final at the U.S. Open. So while I'm flipping around, and I saw like NBC was carrying pro motocross. Now, how many people were watching that compared to NFL football, U.S. Open, and so forth? I don't know how they get ratings for it.
I don't know how they. You know what? I'm just blown away. You know that there's always a new sport. I'm trying to look up for other news to say, but that's why I'm looking down. But yeah, I'm just shocked about that. That's yeah. That's I no more comments. I think on that one. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Anyway, I got random points. Asia Wilson sets the all-time single season scoring record for the WNBA.
Yes.
Obviously, she's the clear-cut favorite to win the MVP. And like I said, this WNBA has gained so much momentum and so much viewership because of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Asia
Absolutely.
Wilson. And like I said, I'm starting to get a little bit of WNBA overdose, but you know what? You know, go for it. You know, keep going. And there
Absolutely.
was one other one I wanted to bring up, Eli, and it's a story I know we've covered a while ago with Steve Gleason, the former football
Right.
player for the New Orleans Saints, and he's been battling ALS. And again, we talked about a couple of weeks ago Steve McMichael, who just got in the Hall of Fame, ALS,
Right.
and we see what a horrifying disease this is. But there was the Hurricane Francine down in Florida, and
Yep.
you know, it was really, really bad, and he almost got injured in the hospital. So, like, tragedy on top of tragedy.
It's horrible.
So I wanted to give a shout out and wish him the best because this guy's been a fighter. He had a big punt block for the New Orleans Saints in a playoff game, and they ended up going to I believe they went to it was right after the same season as Hurricane Katrina. Remember how
Okay.
tragic
Yep.
that was? So I think they actually made the conference finals that
Yeah.
season, but we send our best to him.
Absolutely.
All right, give me some random
Yes, and
points.
I always look at during the random points other news on the phone throughout the times or on our show in case anything breaks up. I'll bring it on, but nothing new there. We'll start with the WNBA. Angel Reese is out for the season due to a season-ending injury for the WNBA, which is not good as the playoffs are right around the corner. The Liberty are in the first place with 31-6. They're still battling between Washington, Chicago, and Atlanta for that 8th place spot. The WNBA regular season ends on Thursday. This Sunday will kick off the playoffs. Not this Sunday, the following Sunday will kick off the playoffs. No games today, 6 tomorrow, including Dallas versus Indiana at 3 p.m. NBA TV, Minnesota versus New York, 3 p.m., Atlanta versus Washington, 3 p.m., Phoenix, Chicago, 6 p.m., Connecticut versus Las Vegas, 6 p.m., CBS Sports Network, and LA versus Seattle at 6 p.m. A lot of games to watch out for, so take a look at your market for the WNBA.
Okay.
As I mentioned before, DirecTV has been reached. Deal has been reached moments ago. As of 9:30 this morning, local stations and ESPN channels are now returning back to your programming. So stay tuned for that. DirecTV and Disney were been battling for a while already. They were not able to make a deal prior to the Monday night game. Disney actually reached out to DirecTV, allowing them to put the TVs back on for ABC for the presidential debate, which was on Tuesday. ABC was hosting the debate. But DirecTV said no. They said, that's not fair. Why not ESPN? Why not everything else? So they said, no, we're not putting it on just for the debate. That's not right, even though right now the politics part is probably more important with the election coming up for the presidential. But they did say no on that matter. But they did have reached a deal. That's what matters. It really was a rough area to go. Other news prior to, that are non-sports related, which I'll get back to sports in a minute. SpaceX, we want to give them congratulations to them. They performed a first of its kind spacewalk, allowing them to leave the Dragon capsule and do a spacewalk, like and take in the air in the moment. And it was a really dangerous mission because if something went wrong, it really affected everything. And it wasn't your traditional astronaut suits as you see on board the International Space Station when they're trying to fix it, those big, heavy machinery. It was your typical SpaceX outfit that they wore prior to launch. So that was pretty cool to see what they did. And congratulations. That was pretty epic to see. The new spacewalk journey began.
Yeah, and I know, we're talking about there's still 2 astronauts stuck on the International Space Center. So I would think hopefully we can come up with some. It looks like they're going to be there till February, which is shocking. So
and that
I mean,
rocket
that's
actually just
great
came down.
for yeah. So,
And it came back okay. That's the good news for the Boeing. It did come back okay, so it would have been proven that it would have been safe with the astronauts, but it was more of a safety concern, and we didn't want to see what
yep,
happened, like with the situation with Columbia and Challenger, with the space shuttle program. Other news that is happening:
yep.
the
Okay.
PWHL's New York Sirens hockey will play in the Prudential Center as their primary home venue for the 2024-2025 season. That is your women's hockey league. Luke Hughes suffered a left shoulder injury during the offseason. No surgery will be required, but recovery time will be 6 to 8 weeks, meaning he will miss the first few games for the New Jersey Devils. That was announced this week by the PR team of the New Jersey Devils. Finally, MSG Networks has hired Rachel Herzog as their new analyst, pregame, postgame, intermission host for the New Jersey Devils, replacing Erica Wachter. MSG Networks also announced they picked up Tyler Murray, who will become the play-by-play voice announcer for the New York Knicks. And that's all for Random Points. And time now for our entertainment and photos segment.
Was it
Sponsored
the Knicks or was it the Nets?
Knicks. It was the Knicks.
Oh, the Knicks. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Entertainment and
So
photo
we
segment
do our
sponsored by
movie
Vital Selection. Scan the
recommendations.
QR code
First,
to learn more.
yep. And thank you for Vital Selections for being part of our show. So when we do our recommendations, first and foremost, I need to ask Eli, who's our game show guru, his impression of Ryan Seacrest's first week as host of Wheel of Fortune.
I think he nailed it. I really think nobody's going to replace Pat Sajak. We already know that for sure, but I think he nailed it on the nose. I think he got the game on down pat. I love the new prizes this season. Not a new fan of the set, but what are you going to do? But I really am a big fan of what he has done so far. A nice job by Ryan Seacrest. He really felt comfortable in the host seat spot. He's done a fantastic job. I got to give him credit. There is no Pat Sajak to replace him, but he's doing a fantastic job, and I like him. What are your thoughts on him? Did you watch Wheel of Fortune? What are your thoughts?
I actually did because I wanted to talk about it on the show. I think he's got some growing pains. He seemed a little bit nervous to me,
Right, he
trying
was
to
nervous.
establish his little niche. But you know what?
But absolutely, you have to be nervous. You're hosting the best game show on the planet and most watched.
But he's in it for the long run. So just like Ken Jennings in Jeopardy, he grew into the role, and now I think he's a great host. So
all right, that's good. Well,
and our movie recommendation from me, and it's going to be a little bit appropriate when we get to our notable passings, is Field of Dreams.
yeah,
And it's a great movie. It's been out there for many years, and you know, you'll understand why I brought that up. It's a baseball season. We're down to the wire. It's a great movie. Highly recommended.
Well, we're just going to get right to the point then. James Earl Jones passed away. We'll get to the notable passings in just a moment. And I think you have to watch something that he did to honor his legacy, whether it's watching The Lion King and his role in Mufasa, a Star Wars film and his role in Darth Vader, or in The Sandlot. I mean, there's so many great films that we all love and to watch, and he took part of that. So my recommendation is watch James Earl Jones film, and I think Star Wars or The Lion King is the top two on top of Field of Dreams to watch.
But he was also an EGOT winner, which is an Emmy, a Grammy, right? An Oscar and a Tony, which is very, very rare. So we kind of jumped the gun on notable passings for that, but it ties.
But again, he's an absolute legend, and we'll get to more of him in just a minute.
Right. Okay, Eli. So we got a couple of photos here, right? So that's my grandson. Not only is he playing football, and I'm going to see him play football this afternoon, he's also playing fall baseball. So there he is in the dugout with his Chester Mendham Patriots. And, you know, what can I tell you? I mean, the kid is just developing into a real fine athlete, and I love this kind of stuff. So
impressive. And you could ask him or the other grandkids about Paw Patrol, so you can get the understanding of it. And you could tell us all more about it for next week's show, so understand why Aaron Judge went on this course, if you don't mind. All right, other photo we have.
And listen, you know, we're getting into fall, but you know, believe it or not, you know, this is the second time. You know, I like flowers. Okay, I'm like Spike from Happy Days, right?
Okay.
So these are my rose bushes that I take special care of, and I thought it would be good to brighten up the set and bring a little nature to our show. So like I said, it's going to a month from now or 2 months from now, we're going to be seeing snow and we're not going to see any flowers at all. So I
Alrighty.
wanted to bring that up as well.
Jim's jumping the gun already.
Right. One other thing I wanted to give a shout out because today is my granddaughter Hayden's 7th birthday, and
Happy
I'm going to
birthday.
get to see her later on. And, she's cute as apple pie, of course. So I'm going to see her. She'll be there rooting on her brother in his football game this afternoon. So
All right.
happy birthday,
Excellent.
honey. I love
Happy
you.
birthday.
All right, Eli. Let's jump into the notable passings. And like I said, I think for both of us, James Earl Jones led the
He
the
led it.
list.
He
Right?
absolutely did.
93 years old, and just notorious, movie voice, and he made a career with that voice. Right? He wasn't actually in Star Wars, but he was also, the voice of Darth Vader. So that tells you what kind of an impact. And yeah, Andrew, I
Andrew
know you've
says,
seen
"Field of
Field of
Dreams,
Dreams.
rest in
Yeah,
peace." Yeah, I
big
mean,
time.
listen, there's nobody else that's going to perfect the words of saying, "Luke, I am your father." Nobody
Yep.
will ever perfect that again. I could tell you that right now. You could get another person to play Darth Vader. Jim, you could say it. I could say it. Luke, I'm your father. It is not going to be the same.
I actually do a great James Earl Jones.
Okay, could you do
Luke,
it, Luke, I am your father then?
I am not your father. Come on, it's not that bad, actually.
It's not that bad, but you got to say the true one, Luke. I am your father. You
I
got to
know.
do that one better. I mean,
Anyway, so rest
that's
in peace to one of the great
of an absolute
actors of
legend.
the past 50 years, no doubt about it. Um, Otherwise, Ed Kranepool,
Yep.
former Met, original Met, right, was on the 1962 team as a young kid, 17, maybe 18 years old.
Yeah.
He played more games for the New York Mets than anybody in franchise history. And he was kind of an ambassador and always a class guy, and actually a member of the 69 Miracle Mets team that won the World Series. He was 79 years old. And like I said, when you perform for your team and you're part of that 69 epic World Series championship, you're a legend in New York Mets lore. And
Absolutely.
if they're retiring Darryl Strawberry and these other guys' numbers, I don't know for sure, but I would certainly hope that N. Kranepool, his number is retired sometime coming up, if it's not already, being the all-time most games played by a New York Met. So I got one other one from the
Yep.
world of sports, and it's Joe Schmidt. And Joe Schmidt was, and Lions fans certainly know who Joe Schmidt is. He was a Hall of Fame linebacker, uh, drafted in 1953, and was part of the 53 and 57 uh, champion Detroit Lions. And that's the last time they've drank from the Champagne Cup. And Joe Schmidt
Absolutely.
was absolutely a legend. He was 93 years old. And I have one other one. It was Chad McQueen, who was the son of Steve McQueen, and he was also
Yeah.
in the Karate Kid movies. He was 63. He was more into like cars and things like that than he was in acting. But Karate Kid is a legacy movie that will live on
Will live on
forever. They've
forever.
done some sequels, and he was 63.
Wow. And the other one I
Who'd
had
I
was
miss?
Stephen Pete, former NHL player who played with the Ducks and Capitals in the early 2000s, finished career in the AHL. He was born in 1980.
Okay.
And that's it.
Yeah,
And
and
that was
and
a great week
again,
we had.
yeah, and when we talk about notable passings, we did mention it, but it was,
It's a
they
way to
laid
honor.
Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew to rest this week, and
It was
the
really sad
sad,
to see.
right, both of them were again going to be expectant fathers, and it's just a tragedy.
It's
And
horrible to see
uh,
her.
but the way the NHL and everybody pulled together, it was
It's
really a
amazing.
great scene. It really
And
was.
also, for all those who lost their lives on 9/11, as we just passed the anniversary
Oh,
this week, we send our condolences as always. We will never forget. And it's amazing to see everyone just take a moment to pause in their day and to honor. It really is. And I've been watching videos from the international airports and stuff. They took a moment to stop everything,
yep.
airport operation, everything, to just have that moment of silence when the first plane hit that tower. And it just really is such a special moment to see, the
Yes, it
way we
is.
honor, and
It
we'll
really,
never
it
forget.
really is just a powerful thing. And I know you weren't even born yet, but
That's
your
right.
mother, your father, myself, we all impacted. We all had some sort of a connection to somebody. We knew somebody. I knew somebody. My roommate's brother and
Yep.
one of my college classmates' brother was a fireman, and just a devastating loss. But as long as nobody ever forgets it. And, I love that they do the reading every year, and they should do that every year for the next 100 years, because there's never been a bigger tragedy in our country than that. And
And
we're
it's
sending
one
our
of the
best.
most united things that we bring this country together with. I mean,
Yes.
you could say Christmas for sure, we bring everybody together, but if you ask 4th of July and everything is about the barbecues and everything, 9/11 is one of the times where every single person in this country will take a minute, tell you about the story, or just remember something about it. And that's what
Yep.
makes that such a special day to everybody.
And like I said, I was part of our society that had to witness this on television. And
Yeah.
it was just absolutely heartbreaking, tear jerking for sure. I actually remember going to a ceremony at the Ramsey train station, because
Yeah.
Ramsey lost a couple of um, community members. And just it was just so heartbreaking. But I'm glad that we have the resolve that we could look past this and try to put it behind us. But you never ever will forget, and the families,
Absolutely.
and we give them our best. So good close, Eli. I
Yes.
appreciate that very
And what a
much.
great show we had today. We talked about a lot, and we are going to be back next
Yep.
week at 10 o'clock with some brand new content and so much more to talk about.
Yep, Eli, good job this week. And again, please send us emails at sportswithmono@gmail.com. I had an opportunity to talk to James Walsh, one of our loyal listeners from Long Island, yesterday. And, we love your feedback. We love the comments. And we look forward to seeing you on the next show. So we'll see you next
Absolutely.
week at
We'll
Saturday
see
at
you all.
10.
Yep. See you all next week at 10. Have a good day, everybody.
You too, Eli. Have a great week, buddy.